Хорошо, потому что у меня нет готового выступления страниц на 20.
Probably it's good because I do not have a prepared speech for about 20 pages.
Плохо, потому что я не знаю, что я наговорю.
And it's bad because I do not know what I'm going to speak.
Мне доставляет очень большое удовольствие видеть всех вас.
I have a great pleasure to see you all here.
Обратиться ко всем вам.
To address you with a speech.
Потому что вы знаете, у меня переходный период.
Because you know I'm in a transitional period.
October 2010, Guadalajara, Mexico. The Plenipotentiary Conference of the International Telecommunication Union. In accordance with the charter of this international organization, the Russian representative, Valery Timofeev, tenders his resignation as the director of the Bureau of Radio Communications. Elected to this position 8 years ago at a conference in Morocco and re-elected 4 years later in Turkey, he, according to colleagues, honorably fulfilled his mandated task. 8 years. This is the maximum possible duration a person can hold such a high office. 8 years of a person's life. This is the stage and time for one to choose a future path, life's crossroads, which were not few in number along the road of Valery Timofeev's destiny. Valery Timofeev was born on September 26, 1938, in the Ryazan region. From childhood, he was fond of physics. In 1961, he graduated from the Moscow Physics Technical Institute of Communications, a PhD candidate in technical sciences. In the 1960s of the last century, he worked as an engineer, a senior engineer, a junior researcher, a graduate student, and the head designer of the State Scientific Research Institute of the Radio Ministry of Communications of the USSR. 1970. Valery Timofeev is in Switzerland for the first time, where he works as the senior engineer for the Secretariat of the International Frequency Registration Board of the International Telecommunication Union. Fortunately, it so happened that we've known each other for almost 30 years, since back in the 80s when he first came here on a range of activities within the International Telecommunication Union through the Communications Administration of the Soviet Union. We established contact, then we met, and since then we have had a very kind, warm, and friendly comradeship. The 70s. Young, handsome, and naive, I arrived as an engineer to the Secretariat of the Frequency Registration Committee. I had the following tasks: on Wednesdays to make preliminary assessment of applications, and on Fridays to give the results. That's all. And then began the expansion of all the responsibilities and opportunities. Well, of course, more headaches were the result.
Job for running this kind of conference, so I could done well when I was a study group chairman. That I all learned from Mr. Timofeev.
1974. Valery Timofeev returned to Moscow to the Radio Research Institute, working in the position of sector chief and head of the department. In 1992, he served as deputy chairman of the State Commission for Radio Frequencies of the Russian Federation. In 1999, another responsibility was added to this position: the Deputy Minister of Communications. He is directly responsible for the effective use of the radio signal spectrum and the development of television and radio broadcasting. The creation and operation of a national satellite communications and broadcasting system, the Communications Administration of Russia worked with various international organizations, including the International Telecommunication Union. He headed the Department of Electromagnetic Compatibility, and he and I worked very closely, working out the norms of frequency area spacing between the channels. These are the main documents that provided the prospect of allocating frequency channels for new systems introduced into the service. Valery Timofeev went on to successfully defend his PhD thesis, and he has numerous scientific publications and inventions to his credit. He is co-author of 5 treatises and is the holder and co-holder of 9 patents for various inventions in the field of radio communications. Timofeev, a member of the International Academy of Communications and a member correspondent of the Academy of Astronautics, named in honor of Tsiolkovsky. A person will never achieve success in fulfilling his major objectives if he assumes the following position: that with a machine gun from the trenches. Nothing good will come from that. Smiling, talking, and joking. Here, of course, everyone fulfills their own actual tasks. But, by and large, one needs to be kind to others. And then others will be kind to you too. Kind, that doesn't mean overly gentle. That doesn't mean you have to constantly be patting someone on the back, even when a good swift kick is called for. But just the same, people should not be evil, it seems to me, and then everything will be successful. An extraordinary experience and an extraordinary opportunity to understand things. Associates work looking for a single solution, a bad one, and then another, and then arguing, and for a long time unable to find any solution. Mr. Timofeev offers a completely different solution, which essentially solves the problem. Working on a team with Valery Viktorovich, on the one hand, is easy when you understand the problems. But if you have any difficulties, in this case, Valery is very tough, and he pays no attention to regalia or to authorities. He always demands a work return of 100%. That remarkable man who, by the morning, by 8 o'clock in the morning, manages to read all documents. 2002, Morocco, the Plenipotentiary Conference of the Union of Telecommunications. For the first time ever in the long history of this influential international organization, to one of the key leadership posts, that of Director of the Bureau of Radio Communication, a representative of the Russian Federation was elected, the Deputy Minister of Communications, Valery Timofeev. Russia, one of the founding countries of the Union, and the Russian language, one of the working languages of the organization. Traditionally, many Russians, both Russian experts and Soviet experts, have worked here, and they are still represented in many study groups, on the commissions, on the committees, and in the Bureau. And certainly, their opinions are heeded. The ITU is the leading United Nations agency in the areas of information and communication technologies, and the global focal point for governments and the private sector in developing networks and services. It carries out, on a global basis, coordination of the sharing of radio spectrums. It promotes international cooperation in assigning satellite orbits and promotes improvements in the telecommunication infrastructure of developing countries. It established worldwide standards that foster the seamless interconnection of a vast range of communications and address the global challenges of our time, such as disaster mitigation, climate change, and the strengthening of cybersecurity. From broadband internet access to the latest generation of wireless technology, from aeronautical and maritime navigation to radio astronomy, from the convergence of fixed mobile telephone communication, internet access, data, voice, and television broadcasting to the next generation of networks. All of this is evidence that the ITU believes the idea of connecting the world. Dr. Valery Timofeev, who plays such an important role in our team. I am very grateful to Dr. Valery Timofeev for the help he has given us over the past 8 years.
I think it is the right person on right position, yes. He done very good work for frequency.
With the active support and participation of Mr. Timofeev, Uzbekistan planned and implemented a national program for the transition to digital broadcasting. Thanks to his efforts, thanks to his ability and professionalism, and to his skills in bringing people of different ideologies and countries together, this allowed us to solve many of these problems here.
Of an opinion, but I guess that the work that he's doing is a very good job that he's doing in radio, and we believe that with all the support of other countries, including ourselves, he would do a lot.
2006, Turkey. The next in a series of conferences of the International Telecommunication Union, Valery Timofeev is confirmed as the director of the Bureau. The Radio Communication Bureau is the executive branch of the sector of radio communications. The director of the Bureau is responsible for coordinating the work of the sector based on the experience of the daily application of the directives of the Council. The director prepares new procedural rules for further consideration by member states of the Union. Amongst the duties of the director is the preparation of the annual work and financial plans of the Bureau, which are proposed for their subsequent consideration by the member states of the radio communication sector. The director, in the role of consultant, participates in radio communication conferences and in the research groups of the sector. I can say with certainty he is not just a man, he is a legend. And a legend is not created by some elements of PR, but he became a legend for his competence, his diplomacy, for his intuitiveness. These types of legends are built over a number of years, and they continue on for years as well.
Where I was already working at that time. So my chance was to become his deputy, and then finally I could, on a daily basis, see that how much competent, how much wise, how much able to manage the directorship of the bureau, Mr. Timofeev.
Both as a professional and as a person, I have the highest regards for him. I have known Mr. Timofeev from quite a long time in my participation in international ITU meetings. And I found that Mr. Timofeev was like a mentor to me because of the way of his approach to solve problems, because of his extensive knowledge of the radio communications.
But in short, I consider him as a great scientist in radio communications. He has a very good knowledge about our radio communication technologies, and he has a very good knowledge about the global issues. How can we, deal with this spectrum with new requests for modern technologies, and take care of also those existing need for those technologies still valid today, and a lot of conflict. And he has a long story of his experiences to take care of very complicated issues in various roles, as I mentioned, as a national delegate, as an expert, but most of important thing is as a leader in this field.
His calmness, his thoughtfulness, these have always inspired great respect in those people who have spoken with him and have always noted the extraordinary professionalism of this man.
Mr. Timofeev is a great man, really. And specifically for us as African Telecommunication Union, he is the one who has helped Africa being more involved in radio, let's say, communications.
Well, I congratulate him for having served such a long time and having served with such excellent record. And also it must be pointed out that under his leadership and with the cooperation of all the members, the world has now come to realize that there is a great deal of merits in trying to have a very much more efficient utilization of the spectrum.
Yes, it will be great for us because if we can participate in Russia in your celebrations.
The radio communications sector plays a vital role in the global management of the use of radio frequency spectrum, satellite orbits, and limited natural resources, for which demand is growing from a large and increasing number of services. A primary objective is to ensure that radio communication systems suffer no interference. In any place and at any time, people need to be able to communicate and understand each other. The main objective is to enable communication between peoples through the harmonious development of various types of communication services. It is this mission that has become fundamental to the work of Dr. Valery Timofeev, Director of the Radio Communication Bureau.
Сегодня я понял, что у меня, оказывается, жизнь идет под знаком 8.
And today I understood that the number 8 is my sign in life.
Это 8-я полномочная конференция, в которой я участвую.
Because this is the 8th plenipotentiary conference I'm taking part in.
Это 8-й год в качестве директора бюро радиосвязи.
This is my 8th year in the quality of Director of Radio Bureau.
И перед этим я 8 лет был членом радиорегламентарного комитета.
And before that, I was the member of Radio Regulations Board for 8 years.
Я хотел бы сказать вам всем, большое вам всем спасибо.
I would like to thank you all.
Потому что никакие мои 8 не были бы возможны без вашей поддержки.
Because none of my 8 years would be possible without your support.
Спасибо вам большое.
Thank you.
2010, Mexico. 8 years flew past like a day. It's time to say goodbye. He is an outstanding man, a very serious professional and authority not only for Russia, but to those who work together with him in the Bureau and to the entire world's telecommunication community. We get constant confirmation of this fact, and we hope that his experience will be called for in the international arena, well, and certainly in Russia. We also listen to his recommendations and are always glad to see him amongst our ranks. For the 8 years that Valery Viktorovich was director of the Radio Bureau, we were totally calm and confident that everything was running very fairly, honestly, and transparently, because Valery Viktorovich is the kind of person who simply can't work any other way. It was truly a pleasure and very easy to work with Mr. Timofeev, and we sincerely wish him lots of success.
As a friend for a very long time, won't tell you how many years, but we've always cooperated very well together and have like mind on many things, so we'll miss him very much. He's contributed a lot to the ITU, and hopefully he'll still be able to provide some contribution in the future after he finishes as the director of the Radio Bureau.
He gave a lot to the International Telecommunication Union. We will miss him. We hope that in future he will continue to share his with the International Telecommunication Union.
I cannot say anything more than saying that he is really a close friend to all of us, a close friend to the government of UAE, to my personally.
About 20 years, and I've seen him in many occasions. And what I really appreciate in his personality is his ability to manage all scientific, technical, regulatory and legal issues with a lot of diplomatic skills. And I think he has given an outstanding contribution to the ITU in all these issues. And certainly we are all disappointed that he cannot be the BR director forever, but of course it's only 8 years terms, and we certainly wish he can continue after the end of this year to the ITU work as he has done in the last 30 years.
There is a law. A high office can be held no more than 8 years. Yes, if it weren't for that law, I am firmly convinced, and I think all of you will agree with me, that Valery Viktorovich could have continued his useful activity for many years and would have benefited mankind greatly. Valery Viktorovich, I want to wish you at this approaching stage that you do not change, and being a great professional, I think you still have a lot to do in order to develop information communications in Russia and the world. The simplest form is to write memoirs, but it seems like I'm not quite ready to do that yet. I do not rule out that it is possible to do the same thing I did in '74 after the first trip to Geneva. I went back to SRIR and continued to work there. Why would I not do the same now? And if we talk seriously, it all depends on those offers that might appear. I think that for some time I will still have the energy to continue working. The new crossroads in Valery Timofeev's destiny. And we would like to wish that in the future the crossroads will always lead you along the main road of life.
Если 100 раз с утра все не так, если пришла пора сделать шаг, если ты одинок, значит настал твой срок, и ждет за углом перекресток 7 дорог. Там не найти людей, там нет машин, есть только 7 путей, и ты один. И как повернуть туда, где светит твоя звезда? Ты выбираешь раз и навсегда. перекресток 7 дорог. Вот и я. Перекресток 7 дорог. Жизнь моя. Пусть загнал я судьбу свою, но в каком бы ни пел краю, все мне кажется, я опять на тебе стою.